Welcome to the Marble Sports Worldwide Podcast, where we discuss and analyze your favorite marble sports. From JMR Marble League to Algodo tournaments, we'll make sure you never miss the action. All marble sports, all the time, right here on the MSW Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Marble Sports Worldwide Podcast. My name is Brendan.
And I'm Commander Wof.
Ooh, it's been a couple weeks. Stuff has happened.
Yeah.
Our schedules have been rough. Things have happened in our lives. But we are back to discuss some marbles. I do want to mention one thing before we get into any marble-related endeavors here, and that is that I had I can't believe I forgot to mention this to you, Wof, but I had my most proud difficult gaming achievement ever in the last couple weeks. The hardest thing I have ever done, the hardest thing I think that I know of in my group of people I know in my life has ever done. And that is beat this level called Bausha Vortexes in Geometry Dash. It's rated. I mean, that level used to be in the top 10, top 50 hardest demons in the game. Now it's about 150. So it's really dropped because just harder and harder every year with that game. But that level took so long to beat. Has quite the backstory. Probably for a different time. But briefly, I kind of played the level. And when I started playing the level at first, by the way, if you want to really know what the level looks like, you should go my channel, Marble Guy, where I do GD stuff. I have my completion there and a couple of my fails. It's my most recent video, so you should watch it. You should enjoy it. I freak out when I beat it, so we're talking a hilarious reaction. So if you're really curious about how difficult the level is and everything, but just for the short of it.
Congrats, man.
Thanks, Wof. For the short of the backstory, I started the level about 2 years ago when I was not nearly good enough for it, so it was like a big jump in difficulty for me. So I didn't really, for a while I didn't get close to beating it, but then I was actually getting close, and I was playing with my right hand on mouse, and then I got 82%, which was a big fail because it was right before it comes out of this very difficult part and goes to an easier part to end the level. So that was a tough fail, but the next day, I actually injured my hand playing the game because it was like during COVID. It was a day where I played for too long, and the desk I had back then was really weird. It had like this outward curve to it, and it was always digging into my wrist in the wrong way. So it like all of a sudden my hand went numb, and it was like bad, and it took like long time for that to heal. So I went from 82 to really not being able to play the game for months. So what I did was actually learn how to play the game lefty. Because it was like months and months it was going to take for whatever I did to the nerves in my arm to fix itself. So I learned to play lefty because I didn't have anything to do. I was still just doing nothing during the pandemic time. It was still just a long time coming up that I was still just going to be home doing nothing. So I learned how to play the game lefty. It took a long time, but I actually beat some extreme demons easier than the one I'm talking about. But I built up skill lefty, and then I came back to the level lefty like 8 months later. Then I spent a couple months practicing again, getting my skill up, getting good at the game, all excited, streaming here and there as much as I could, and it all worked up amazingly. And then it was the last day that I was at college before I went home. I did a little stream, and I died at the same place, 82 again. Oh my God, the pain of that is unmatched because it was like a year later at this point. So then I kind of quit the game for a long time. And then I came back like within the last couple weeks. And my right hand is good again, so I've been playing on up arrow, which is a little bit easier, just like on the keyboard clicking instead of putting it on my hand on the mouse. And I actually beat the level, and man, it took like 111,502 attempts to put that level away. So that was that has been my biggest gaming achievement. Just want to share that with you again. You can check it out on my other channel if
that's crazy. That's honestly really cool, dude. Like, that determination.
Dude, I just wouldn't give up. Now that's interesting, but that's not what this intro is really for today. We have something else we have to really address in this intro because last week, or a couple weeks ago, we had an episode where we really dove into Mellow Meadows, and I thought that was one of our better episodes because we really dug into some revealing information about where JMR is going, Red Eye and some of the techniques he used, you know, the Balls of Chaos, the emerging teams, Rangers, and some of the techniques they use. But Term from the Big Gets Big Takes podcast had a couple things that he thought were me slipping in my information. Now, I caution him with at least some of the things he said here, because some of the things he said here are just wrong, or at least unfinished, and we're going to talk about them. And some of them, I think, he might have misunderstood where we were going with some of our points, but I want to address these, just so we're addressing things that have importance to them before we get into today's topic. So he says, first off, actually not first off, but the biggest thing to me that he says, he says this. He says, also, Rapidly is one of the best marbles of all time. Well, not the best at M1. They still have 2 silver medals in M1. I'm only 36 minutes in, but this is not correct information, man. Now, we have talked about Rapidly at length, and I'm going to go up into the Chrome here so we can actually pull up some stats here. I want everyone to see where we're going as far as this Rapidly business, because we have talked about Rapidly at length, and we have discovered to the agreement of not just me and Wof, but of other people who have emailed into the show that Rapidly is not a good choice for Marbula 1. And in that, we have actually said that Rapidly is quite a good choice for Marble League. So for him to say Rapidly is one of the best marbles of all time, I mean, I can agree to some degree in that, and I didn't not agree with that in the episode. I remember talking about how good he was at sprint or whatever, and he did bring a lot of skill in Marble League. The point I was making, however, was that he is not fit to be in Marbula 1. And not just that, not necessarily that he's not capable of being a choice. I'm saying that within the team that we're just talking about here, within the context of having all 4 of the Savage Speeders, or 5 even, as options to put into Marbula 1, it is not worth continuing to bang your head against the wall choosing Rapidly when you have options like Wizzy, and you have options like oh god, what's the other guy?
Velocity.
Yeah, I was about to say like Swishy or something, but that's stupid. Velocity. But like when you have those options, it's just not worth continuing to use Rapidly. Now, I wanna talk about why we say what we say about Rapidly, because at first glance, what Term says is correct. Term says here, he says, well, not the best at M1, they still have 2 silver medals. Well, 2 silver medals is good, right? How could you possibly hate on a marble that was able to achieve 2 silver medals when most sorry, a little tickle in my throat there. And most marbles over the course of Marbula 1 barely even achieve 1 bronze. Well, let's look at Season 1 here. Now, Season 1, we're gonna scroll down here. We're gonna take a look at not teams. We want to Racers Championship. And the Rapidly's up here. Now, I want you to see this here. So Rapidly picked up 2 big silvers here in Season 1. I'm assuming that's what the gray 18 is for. So 2 big silvers here in Season 1, right off the bat. Then a big 0 and a 6. So basically, if we dumb this down, we had 2 amazing races where Rapidly gets 2 second places. And then we have a terrible race where he gets 0 points, and if you want to still stay on a fair scale, a pretty terrible race again, getting 6 points. All right. Now, because he had 2 amazing races and the season is only 8 races and 4 per marble, he still scored 6 overall. So not bad. I know you look further down, you're going to see a lot of zeros. You're going to see a lot of marbles who are lucky to even get in the top half. But remember, we're talking in the context of the team of the Savage Speeders. If Rapidly was on the Limers, I would say by all means, Rapidly carries the team. But we're not talking about that. And we have to have context. We have to have more information than just single stats when we talk about something like, should a marble compete or not compete in the following season? Should another marble be chosen? So that's Season 1. So we started great, ended terribly, not just bad, terribly for Rapidly in Season 1. Now we're going to go over what we say on Season 2. Now, Season 2 had a lot more races too. But let's go.
It did, like had 4 more?
Yeah. Now, season 2, when I take a look at the racers, and Rapidly is a bit further down. He was 14th. Now, I beg you to give me a good explanation as for how you can defend Rapidly being the best choice out of 4 Savage Speeders to compete in Marbula 1 when the first 4 races in Season 2 have big zeros. One of them not even qualified, I don't think. I think that's what the asterisk is.
Yeah.
Big zeros. He has a gold. He got a gold in race, the last race 12. And he had a bronze. And that's great. And the pedigree, if you only look at medals, is strong for Rapidly, which is I can see why someone like Term would get confused or get a little bit, or disagree. Because you think, well, we have the silver medals, we have the gold, we have the bronze. What are you saying? But every other race, besides the ones where he puts medals on the table, are very bad races. You don't see 4 zeros in the standings until you scroll all the way down to Lemon Lime and Hop here at the bottom. Even Minty Drizzell in 37th did not have 4 zeros. Right? 4 zeros is not characteristic of racers in Rapidly session. It's just that he happened to also have a couple really shining races.
Where did they end up placing in the end in season 2?
14th as an individual racer, about a little bit better than halfway down, because they had a gold and a bronze. And listen, I want to stress this. If Rapidly was on basically any other team, except for like the Cat's Eyes, if Rapidly's on the Cat's Eyes, then he wouldn't be a Cat's Eye anymore. But because this is not acceptable. But if Rapidly was on basically any other team, Rapidly would be praised. It would be like, wow, he's the diamond in the rough, right? He's the diamond in the rough, pulling Primary out of their sorrows, pulling the Bumblebees up to a mid-pack, pulling the Raspberry Racers from the grave. You know, just over and over, he would be praised for his work compared to the rest of the team. But he's on the Savage Speeders.
Yeah.
And from the Savage Speeders code, and this is what we've always said, so I'm not changing my answer here. This is what I've always said about Rapidly, and it still holds up here based on stats. Based from the perspective of the coach of the Savage Speeders, based on the players, the athletes he has at his disposal, the best choice for Season 3 after the performances in Season 1 and 2 from Rapidly is not Rapidly. Because you have 2 Savage Speeders that you have unknown. You're unknowns about those 2 Savage Speeders and their performances in Marbula 1. You don't know how Wizzy or Velocity will perform because they haven't participated in Marbula 1.
Right.
But they're not bad bets. They're not even mediocre bets. We're talking about some of the best marbles in all of Marble League. And if Rapidly can't hold up to do better than 4 zeros in 6 races, then you need to try someone who is also top of the ladder in skill and might put forth a much better result. And that's why, if you had done that, maybe the Savage Speeders are in the talking points for the coming episodes. But no, not this year. Let's take this further, because it just gets worse for Term here, at least in this particular point. You want to talk about Season 3? I mean, I can't even mention the Savage Speeders. I can't even speak about them unless it's negatively in the context of these episodes anymore. Where's Rapidly? Let's find him. 27th. So we continue to drop. 480. What's impressive there? We still have another 0, by the way. He can't stop with the zeros. He still has another 0. But I mean, we got 4 and 8. I mean, that's not good at all. He can't even put the medals on the table that he at least did last season to fool some of you. I mean, it's not a racer that in the context of the team he's on, it doesn't make sense to strut him out there another season. Season 4, absolutely not. When you have the possibility of Wizzy and Velocity doing well. I know you don't know for sure, but again,
right.
You have it's a distinct possibility. It's not saying, okay, well, Sublime didn't work, so maybe Lemon Lime is going to be the next Speedy. I mean, that's not based in any useful information. But when you talk about Wizzy and Velocity, come on. I don't want to hear that term. I actually don't. I mean, and some of these other criticisms might hold a little more water, but I'm going to tell you what, that one is absolutely ridiculous. And I would ask you, he says at the end, y'all slipping, dude. Well, dude, I'd ask you to stop slipping around when it comes to statistics. Okay? Please go back.
They aren't a math podcast.
They aren't. But please, at least look at the website. If you're going to make a claim, look at the website. All the stats are there. I found them within a second.
Yeah, true.
And you explain to me how 7 zeros in 3 seasons makes Rapidly hold any water. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something that you're seeing. But if I was a coach of the Savage Speeders, for season 4, I would have Velocity or Wizzy slated already. And again, I would also be a little bit upset with Speedy, who's not doing as good as he could. 7-10-5, not very good. But again, Speedy's at least more consistent. Speedy will not put zeros up on the board. Speedy also did very good in season 1. Very good. Not just good, very good. So, and very continued it in season 2. So, that case, I believe, is rested. I would love to continue to argue that with Term, because Term is one of my favorite people to argue with. But, this is true. It's a true statement. But I would like to hear how we would come back from that. I would like to hear what you could say. Because a 0 is a 0. A 0 will always be a 0. And if you have lots of those numbers, if you have lots of zeros on the board, then how can you possibly say what you're saying? Okay, let's see what else he has to say. So he also, I'm just kind of confused on this in general, but he also says the grid reset to the qualifier starting after the marbles came onto the track. Red Eye started first both times, and while they did fall back, they were in 6th when they got bumped back up to first because of the rogue marble. Do you understand what he's getting at there? Because I'm missing.
Can you reread that again? He
says, dude, this episode is full of misinformation, after then telling me that Rapidly should be trotted back out there for season 4, but neither here nor there. He says the grid reset to the qualifiers starting after the marble came onto the track. Red Eye started first both times, and while they did fall back, they were in 6th when they got bumped back up to first because of the rogue marble.
Yeah, because the marble, the fan who got on the track, that's what he means. Like basically, like the fan got on the track, he fell back to 6th, but then they reset and he's back at first again.
But what was his point there? We didn't really address.
I don't know. I remember I listened to Big Big Takes, and I think Sky did some big old mathematical.
Yeah, wait. Before you explain this, he actually has some more words on what you're about to say. So I'm going to read these first, and then we can continue. He says, "We did a comprehensive breakdown of where marbles were before the red flag and how they ended up after the red flag, and talked about how Red Eye basically got a free pass because of the rogue marble invading the track, and then put out 2 episodes after this race breaking down the qualifiers in the race, mostly while making jokes about the lore shit." I don't. What is his point here? He's saying that that all our statements about Red Eye are invalid because he got a free pass because they got to restart when he started out badly.
I'm not sure. I feel like I think I gotta go back and re-listen, but I don't think we actually really addressed the restart as being substantial enough. And like he said, well, no, it was more substantial than you realized. Was that in the
qualifiers? That was not even in the main race, then, right?
No, it was in the main. It was in the main race. It was in the main race.
Well, okay, just for and I know this intro is going long, but we've had long intros lately because we've had reasons. I just want to see what I'm missing because here's my first refute to that. We just didn't cover that. I spent no comments about these things, by the way, from Term, but I spend lots of time talking about the techniques of Red Eye during the race, Clementon during the race, Clutter during the race, some of the other unexpected teams during the race, where JMR is going, how this race is revealing. So we did a very deep analysis of that one motion Red Eye had, that kind of pinching motion that we kind of still looking for a name for, but pinch, whatever. But we spent a lot of time there and on the race itself. And by the way, I also want to say this because this is true. This is what I did say. And people don't have to agree with this particular statement, but this is what I did say. I did make the point that I believe the best analysis for marbles in their racing, in their overall racing of a race happens after lap 1. Once the marbles have stratified, because I really didn't talk about, and I kind of reframed it. So if you missed me say this, it might have been confusing. But I reframed starting position to their position after lap 1. I don't know how well I made that transition, but I did say something like that. I remember mentioning that. I'm going to analyze the starting position of these marbles from the the reference point of the end of lap 1, because that's where the stratification has happened. So if after lap 1, if you're in 18th and you work up to first, it's a lot more impressive than if you're in the starting gate and then you jump right out to first from the starting gate and all that commotion and you make that jump. Still both impressive, but again, working your way up is and we kind of worked. We were a lap 1 post analysis, really. So the red flag and all of that did not really come into our analysis, which means any comments about that I feel are a little bit, at least not necessarily invalid, but not pertinent to where we went with the show. So I'm a little confused at that most thing. I mean, really, that one might hold some water. Maybe we should have talked about it. But I mean, then you say rapidly should be in next season, and I'm like, bullshit. All right, let's go. Let's at least take a look at the Mellow Meadows.
So like, I brought up like the lore aspect of it again, but like, for me, I didn't like. The only one on the show who even caught it, like because I listened to the show, is Sky. They wouldn't have caught it if Sky didn't mention anything. It's like, hey, like actually, like if you looked at like the way like they were progressing, like they're technically the positions changed a little bit in the first lap, which I mean, yeah, that could affect the overall race, but like one, like it was the first lap, so it can change, and two, he even brought this up as like more than likely that interference thing that happened was recorded after the race, like which we've known this for a long time. Like they like these interferences that physically can't happen. Or all staged, like they had, like out of roleplay here, like they're all just planned ahead of time. So it's not like it actually legitimately affected the race in any way.
Well, I'm just trying to get a sense here. So in the regular race, and Red Eye gets off to a rough start here. Okay, so then they had the thing. So the marble scene, and then when Red Eye, by the way, is in second when the marble scene for the first time. Race will be stopped, and Red Eye is still in second here. So I'm really missing. Now he drops back to third. I don't really know. I mean, the race has already been decided. What is he talking about? The Rogue Marble. Red Eye's still in second here. Red Eye is in second at the end of the first lap.
Right, and then at the restart, they fall back a lot farther.
Then I don't understand what his point is. Because my whole analysis was built off the fact that Red Eye had a lot of work to do and did it well and made up all those places. Same with Clementin. That was the basis of my analysis, starting from that and how he did it. So where is my? Yeah. I'm missing where I am bringing incorrect information, because not only did I not really cover the restart, I was making points on how good Red Eye was at making up places.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what he's talking about. Like I'm assuming like he thought we should mention it more, which I guess we could.
Because he finished. Again, Red Eye was in second after the first lap, and then after this one, he had a rougher start. But then my episode was basically praising Red Eye and the wonderful things he did. So where?
Yeah, like
in
I don't
what
know
case?
I don't know what he's complaining about either.
Wait, and he might be wrong here, because Red Eye's now in fourth still. I don't know. We didn't talk about qualifiers. Oh no, it looks like he's down to fifth. Maybe this is where he ends lap 1 at sixth. And I'm very, very confident that when I talked about the starting point of Red Eye, that I actually talked about him being. He's not even in sixth when he finishes his lap. He's in fourth. I don't actually understand what term is getting that. And if you talk about the qualifiers, we didn't even talk about them, because honestly, I think those are usually not worth discussing.
Turn will message us definitely if he listens to this episode. You can try and explain it more in detail to us.
Dude, you're gonna have to. You came out very hot. For a second, I was like, "Whoa, maybe I did get a lot of things wrong." But I'm. That's why I wanted to spend this time doing it, because if I had done this and you had been right about both things, or at least very, very valid about both things, I would be like, okay. But I'm really confused about what you're saying in the first thing. If you're talking about the qualifiers, we didn't cover those, because I don't really talk about those. Or if I do briefly. And so if you thought we were talking about qualifiers when we were talking about main race, I'm sorry, but we don't really. Those are important, but not really worth that much time, in my opinion. And then rapidly that's just wrong. I don't listen. If that's your opinion, I'd love to argue you, but that's just not. That just doesn't hold water. I don't really care how many medals you put on the table. If you're consistently half your races are zeros, or 2/3 of your races are zeros on a season, and I have at my disposal two of the most pedigreed marbles in all of marble sports, Wizzy Velocity, good job guys, then I'm going to give them a shot, because the Savage Speeders want to win. You always have to keep in mind what is the goal and the resources of the team. I mean, Savage Speeders want to win, and they have great options at their disposal. Why they would leave rapidly, and especially after this current season, the way it's going, unbelievable and not logical in my opinion. But again, it's also my opinion. I don't really know. The red flag doesn't really mean anything either because, again, I base my analysis off of the end of the first lap. So I don't know. But whatever. Term, I would love to hear from you. Wonderful as always. Thanks for at least giving some thought to it. I'm a little confused, though, for sure. That's a long intro, 25 minutes. But, I mean, but it wasn't really an intro as it was more...
This is basically just another discussion.
A good part of the episode, but I wanted the news to be after I addressed Term. I guess.
Dude, this is ridiculous. Like, I don't know if I want to, like, do I want to talk about me? I don't know if I want to talk about me.
Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to the news, and then we're going to begin the next part of the episode with you talking about you. And then we'll get into the Honeydome stuff. So, without further ado, guys, let's go to the news. And when we come around, we'll hear from Wof, and we'll hear our thoughts on Honeydome, read some emails, and get you guys out of here.
Hello, Marble Sports fans! I'm Commander Wof, here with the Marble Sports Worldwide News. It's been a while, so let's get right to it. Race 6 of Marbula 1 Season 3, the Honeydome, was quite interesting, as this was very much an open and shut race, at least when it comes to the first place. Royal got out to a very early lead, and they just never lost it. As a result, the real battle of this race was for second place. And what a battle it was! Right up until the very end, there was no real way of knowing just who was going to get it. By the end of the race, Royal got a very obvious first place finish, with a total of 6.23 seconds over second place. And after intense competition, Bumble came in second, followed by Clementon in third. And now for the Racing Marble League. Race 4 of Season 3 marked the return of the Camber Canyon Raceway, and the results of this race were quite shocking. This classic track proved to be too much for some of our veterans, with Crimson Lady finishing in 17th place. On the other end of the spectrum, the rookie Swirly continues to dominate the competition and finish in first, followed by Serpent Smart in second, and Rampage in third. With another impressive performance under Swirly's belt, and Crimson Lady bombing this competition, it seems like Crimson Lady might does not actually be our repeat champion this year. It's still not impossible, but the gap has gotten wider and wider to the point where there's really no more room for error. If Crimson Lady's going to defend their title, they better get a perfect performance and hope that the ones above them don't do very well. Well, that's all the news. Thanks for listening. I'm Commander Wof. You are the best fans in the world. Let's kick it on back with the podcast.
All right, we are back from the news, and thank you to our news anchor, unnamed, unknown. No one could ever understand who it is. And
Who could it be?
Ooh, yeah, it's a mystery that I could never unravel. But we are back, and I will say also thank you to Nordique Whaler. Edu says intro became podcast wars. Actually, that's a great idea. I would love and Term, if you're listening to this still. Or anyone from the Big Gets Big Takes, maybe reach out about this. It'd be fun. We should really make our intros to the show. I don't know if you have a set intro because I don't know if you do a news segment, but like our intros to the show should lead with some sort of like feud of opinions between us. That would be a lot of fun.
Gosh.
I think that would be a lot of fun. Think about how then we would get cross listener engagement and everything. We should talk about that. And also, it's fun. It's always fun to yell at. There's always fun to yell. Facts at our podcasters. It's a lot of fun. But Nordique Whaler also posts all the pedigree of Rapidly as a Marble League contender, and it's all valid and it all is worthy of argument because Rapidly is on my team if I'm going into the Marble League. I'm just saying that we have to be careful about how we view the stats in M1 because Rapidly a lot better in the Marble League, let's just say. But oh yeah, season 2 Swiftly. I forgot about Swiftly. I guess he was the backup at this point,
Or I know that one of the Marbles' names changed, so maybe Wizzy or became Swiftly or
whatever you want to call it, or maybe there's I don't know. You have to look. Swifty, whatever.
Swifty.
But in any event, moving on from that. Well, why don't you tell us what's going on with you, and then we'll talk about some emails.
All right. Well, this is kind of a strange change in mood, but like I guess talking about why we've been delayed. Like recently, my grandmother, my mom's side, passed away. That's why I couldn't do last week's show. I had to go do her funeral, and like I'm honestly, it was her time to go. She lived a long life, and I'm happy for her that that her pain is over and she's moved on to the next life, reunited with her husband, and like our family. Like it was a good funeral, very happy one. Honestly, more of a celebration of their life rather than mourning. And I hope my funeral can be like that. Like I lived a full life, and people are just there to celebrate what the things I've done and how much I've infected their lives. That's really what I want. But on a more positive note, I graduated college, and my senior design project got second place.
Look at you go, man! Second place. Look at you.
Yeah,
you're like Bumble.
Oh my gosh! I didn't expect us to do that well. So like, just seeing all that hard work pay
Neither
off,
did Bumble.
It's Neither did.
Oh wow! You walked right into that one.
I did just a bit.
Oh. Well, it's good to hear that. Congratulations on graduating college. That's a big deal. You're now a official adult, and congratulations.
I've been an official adult for a while,
but like a
now.
after college adult, which takes on a different
Sure,
vibe.
okay, I get what you mean.
I know that for sure because everybody adult I know who's after college was always like, "Oh my God, you're still in college." So I know it takes on a different vibe when you're past.
True.
But good to hear. Now I'm going to start with some email. We only have a couple emails, mswpodcast@gmail.com. We always love to hear from you. Talk about anything. Talk about literally anything. Because remember, the point of this, the side quest, I guess you could say, of this show is to engage in any way with people who are also into Marvels. So if you have something non-Marvels to talk about, we like to talk about it because we're engaging with you, not with just the Marvels. Someone in the live chat says rapidly should be replaced by velocity there. And you know what? I would tend to agree there. But we also want to hear from you, so mswpodcast@gmail.com. So anyway, we got a couple emails here. We're going to roll through these. So let's start with Richard. He's got an interesting little question. So he says, starting the Adventure Marble League. By the way, if you don't know, because he's been messaging about this forever, the Adventure Marble League is a thing he runs on his channel. I think it's called Richard Hinckley. I think his channel is just called that or something like that. So if you're interested. But he runs that on his channel, so he always writes in and asks us questions because we're Marble Sports connoisseurs or whatever. I don't know, whatever you want to. I mean, come on, we're at like almost 150 episodes here. We can use that word. And he is a Marble Sports creator. So he says, starting the Adventure Marble League finals in the 7 events this week. What order do you think I should do the events in? He says, dice push, which is like block pushing, Grand Prix, lap racing, sprint race, paper track race, long jump, uphill challenge, and balance. What would be the best microphone to get to record voiceover for the events? Well, if you have a little bit of money, the best microphone you could get is Brendan for commentator. That's been working pretty well for a few other channels, I will say. So I'm just messing. Though I've been really enjoying doing RML and Races and Fun, and now We Race Diecast, We Race Marbles is going to get going soon, so that's exciting. But if you don't, a Blue Yeti. I found the Blue Yeti to work, and it's cheap enough that it's not crazy. Eventually, I'd love to get one of those, like the Shure SM7B, which is like $500. But I mean, for the time being, the Blue Yeti serves all purposes, and the voice still comes in clear, and no one really complains about it. Just make sure you put the audio filters on and whatnot, and it should be fine.
Yeah. But like just a tip here, like I use like the AT2020 XLR mic. It's $100, and then interface, yeah, I'd get it for an XLR. It's maybe like 150, but like any mic, like what's more important is the environment you're recording in. Like you could, like if I was recording this without all my sound dampening stuff around me, it would sound like garbage. So like the most important thing for your audio quality is not even your mic, it's the environment you're recording in. Yeah.
And then, so just to answer the rest of your question, and Wof's audio sounds pretty good too, so that works out. But here we go. He says, 7 events. So I would say you want to start with something consistent, but something that's not just, like expected. So I think balancing or long jump is a good start because you want to, JMR does a similar type thing. They don't really start with a racing event. I think that ending with the Grand Prix is always good. Ending with lap racing is good unless you have the ability to make a really long marathon race, which I don't know if you have that ability as much as JMR might. So I would say lap racing is best for the end. And then in the middle, you want to kind of alternate a bunch. So sprint race might come good second because that's always something you want to do early on. Then follow it by probably something like balancing because that's still a lot of simple movement, more just skill. And then something like dice push, paper track race, something more. You want to put the more absurd or less conventional events in the context of marble sports in that 2/3 area. So between if you have 8 events, you want to put the weirder ones between 5 and 7 because that's when people are like, all right, we got the basic stuff at the beginning. We're ending with the great marathon. Put that weirder stuff later on. So like block pushing falls there, uphill challenge, whatever that might be. Paper track race, that stuff's going to kind of fall kind of 2/3 in. Weird that I can even give any analysis just based on the names of the events. But again, I think everything has a pattern and some patterns work. And even if some patterns don't seem to like they need to work, it's just what we're used to. And so if you want to appeal to people who are used to marble sports, they're very used to seeing something like sprint early on, something like block push later on, something like something new kind of in the 2/3, 3/4 into the tournament kind of place. So I'm just trying to warn you that. But that's all I got. Wof, any comments about that?
No, I kind of actually gave him an email response earlier on because, I figured he probably wanted to start filming soon. So he's like, hey, I use an XLR mic, record in a good environment.
Your mic is kind of something's wrong with it. What's going on?
My bad. I forgot to turn my gain. I was drinking water. My bad. I was just gonna say.
What was going on there? But
sorry. Anyway, I was just saying. I sent him an email reply earlier just because I figured he wanted to film as soon as possible. So I was like, hey, the environment's important. I use XLR, so if you want to go for that, go for that. USB is good for go for high end stuff, I guess, and then just also do whatever order you want. That's real. You definitely give me a better response in terms of the order of events.
Yeah. Okay. So, and Snow, we have an email from Alex, but before I'm doing the email, live chat people who are talking about Honeydome, we're about to get there. I just almost threw these emails, but we're going to Honeydome. We're going to talk about Clementon. I'm really excited about Clementon. And same with Yellow Eye, but we'll get there. Alex also says something in the chat I found interesting. He says marble sports new era is 2020 plus. He says Middle Ages he would call 2017 and 2019, and he would say anything earlier is an OG marble sports. Now, wouldn't
2016 be the start? Because I feel like marble sports really was started by JMR in terms of how they did the production value of it. So 2016 would be the start, right?
This is what I would say. I would reframe those wordings a little bit. So I don't know what you want to call what's before the Middle Ages, like the first age. But anything before 2016, I would consider the early days, the rudimentary age of marble sports, because that's when you had homemade videos. That's when you got a little bit of sand rally in the 2015 area, stuff like that. That's when commentary wasn't really a thing. So that would be the rudimentary age. Middle Ages, I would call 2016 to about the end of 2020, because the end of 2020 is where a lot of things started changing. But the Middle Ages was that kind of golden age. It started, so people freaked out. It trended on Twitter. New things kept coming every year. JMRC, fan team contest. But then it was the end of 2020, kind of coming into 2021, where things broke down. The end of 2020 itself had some rough pockets, but JMR still came out on top for those. But it was after that where things broke down in the context of, JMRC falling apart and Dion and all that stuff going down. So I would say that new era kind of started at the beginning of 2021, really. Marble Sports was kind of a thing before 2016, but not in the way JMR did it. It was not really Marble Sports before 2016. It was Marble Racing, right. And then it became Marble Sports in 2016. But we can go on and on about that. But I'm going to read Alex's email.
Alex was specifying that he meant more in terms like the fans. Like it's like the new like a new wave of fans comes in, and it's like different eras, like what they have seen and also what they have grown up with. And so I kind of get what he means there.
Maybe, but then you get into a lot of details there, and then to expound on all of that would be very messy. But for another time, that's a cool idea for a slower time in marble sports. But Alex writing in email, he says a lot of things to say. He's a subject, so he says, "Oh, and this one's a long one, so strap in, everybody. Here we go." So he says, "Okay, I want to preface this by saying this will kind of be my dumping ground now for emails, and I'll just kind of throw thoughts out there, and you can consider them as much or as little as you want to go as fast or go as slow as you want. Well, I tend to like your emails, so I kind of see them as their own segment at this point. This is the Alex email segment. It's time for the Alex email segment. It's within the email segment, but it's just Alex. And then the end of the Alex, we go back out, but then we have to go back out again. It's like double parentheses, if you want to look at it like that. I also might send like 3 emails in the same week. Well, then it's going to get a little excessive, so fit it all into one, or we're going to stop with the Alex email segment. So keep it to 1. And I know you're hearing this because you're in the live chat right now. Good. Okay. So, and I'm fine with you saving some or reading 1.5 emails, whatever floats your boat. I'm ignoring Dion for the time being. Thank God, because that would be another hour of reading. Okay. First, dumb thought. New team name ideas, Brendan. You can use these if you want for RML. We already have our really decided for RML, but I'll read these. Pizza Rollers, Team Radioactive, Bloodshot Zombies, Venomous Vipers, Burning Magma, Arctic Penguins. I like Arctic Penguins, okay. Salty Sailors, Team Eclipse. I don't mind Team Eclipse. I like
Venomous Vipers and Team Eclipse. Those two I like.
I don't like Venomous Vipers.
Oh, really?
I feel like Vipers either needs to be by itself, or Venomous, you need like another V word, but like half the syllables. I don't know. Just my thought. But he says, not all of these are the best. Some of these I had JMR in mind. Some of them I have Fubic and RML in mind. Okay. I don't know what that means, but sure. With more of the funny names. Oh, yeah, because like Fubica would work really well with Salty Sailors, actually. I will give them that, the way they go, but that's why. Speaking of names, Purple Rockets. I think Brendan said in the previous episode, but with the names, you'd be able to visualize the marble with the name and should be somewhat unique. Alex, not going to lie, game show time. Okay, I don't know where we're going, but let's do it. One of these things is not like the other. Savage Speeders, Noxious Ivy, Team Galactic, Purple Rockets. I'm assuming the answer here is going to be Purple Rockets. Because he said Purple Rockets early in the email. I don't know what's going on, but Savage Speeders, Noxious Ivy, Team Galactic, Purple Rockets. Well, I feel like the Purple Rockets is the answer here because the other 3 are named very well. He says, like, bruh, my issue is 3 things. You could replace the purple with anything and have it stay relatively the same. That's fair. That's a more profound point than you think. The name does not gain any additional uniqueness or additional kind of pizzazz just by adding the word purple. And every word in the name of a team should add something to it. Like, for example, Amethyst Alliance. Without the word amethyst, it loses a lot of its pizzazz. Without the word alliance, though, it also loses a lot of its uniqueness. Alliance kind of indicates something a little different than just team, right? Or like, what's another? Savage Speeders. Without Speeders or Savage, you have a completely different team. But without purple, if you had green rockets or yellow rockets, you don't change the uniqueness by removing that word. So actually, Alex, that was quite a valid point. I really liked that. 2, he says, there's no alliteration or any ring to the name. That is... Man, I should just have him. Correct all the teams. These are the 2 things that I look for when I look for team names. So I don't. There's not even anything for me to add beyond what he's saying here. There's no alliteration or any ring to the name, which isn't usually an issue. It's literally the most basic name, color, and fast. Reminds me of the Blue Fastics. Ugh, don't even say that name. Like how boring these names sound. Fast reds, quick greens, etc. They have no correlation. I agree. It's kind of... Yeah. It doesn't stick out. It doesn't even ring well. Like, you can have a simple name, but if it rings well, it's okay. At least with teams like the Green Ducks and Indigo Stars, it makes a bit more sense. I agree. Especially the Green Ducks. That sounds good. Put in Amethyst Alliance. It's so much better of a name than Purple Rockets. Even something shorter, Amethyst Allies. I think alliance goes well with the word amethyst, though. So I even though it's longer, I still stick with that. But I get your idea, and they're both good. But I want the Purple Rockets name to leave the league. But as Brendan said, it's fun to have a team you hate. That's true. Good stopping point. Next topic. I want Team Plasma back. All right, Alex. Brendan, in 4.97 seconds, what do you think of Team Plasma? I think they're okay. I guess that's all the seconds I have. I think that was probably I don't know. I think I have like 2 more seconds. They haven't been around in a while. All right, so there you go. They are not a Hubalimo team, by the way. I know. I'm a longtime podcaster of JMR. I think I'd better know that, Alex. Wof, your thoughts as well, but I understand that Brendan is going to have a much stronger opinion. Go ahead, Wof.
Well, you were wrong there, because for the first time ever, Brendan didn't actually go off on a tangent.
Well, I only had 4.97 seconds there.
I think it would be interesting to have like more returning teams, like just to spice things up. But like at the same, like I don't know, like there are plenty of teams too who people want, like the people want the Golden Orbs back, people want the Quicksilvers back, and like I guess why does Team Plasma deserve it more than them?
I guess that's a fair question. Oh, to address something Adu said, by the way, yeah, I understand that his emails take up a lot of space. I always think he brings up interesting and random enough topics that they do have some fun Marble relation to kind of keep the episode interesting, though. Because this is becoming more of a regular thing and not just because it used to be like he used to send in a normal email and then every once in a while he would go off. So if this is becoming a regular thing, I'm probably just gonna have his emails more like at the end and make sure we cover stuff earlier. But again, that transition is kind of happening as we go because it was only the last few times that it's really become a regular thing for him to write a book to us each time. So
okay. But the more time you talk about this, the less time we have to talk.
I just want that to
so
be understood because Edu makes a good point. But again, he's within the transition period. But here's what I think. I can hear Brendan's head shaking. That has a sound. Wow. Can you hear a head shaking? You get my point. Can you hear a head shaking? Is that what he wanted me to say it? Like look away and say it? Is that the point?
If you do it fast enough.
This isn't a random thought so much, Brendan. If you disagree with the points, I'm happy to hear a rebuttal and we can debate. I'm rather passionate about this unless you like Team Plaza lol. I don't mind. We need a red team. In my opinion right now we have Rojo Rollers and Savage Speeders. Savage Speeders is not really red anyway. Red is, in my opinion, a very important color. I can't describe this, but red is a color that feels like a top-tier color. Well, it's a basic color, so it has to be around. Not even sure how to describe it, but we need another red team. This is an opinion, but yeah.
Well, I mean, red is one of the main 3 colors, like the red, like the color wheels and like how colors and screens are displayed, so that makes some sense. But also, red psychologically, you are naturally inclined to see it as an aggressive color, so like it is a good color for racing. So I can see where he's coming from there.
Okay. Yes, sure. 2, the name in the world where Purple Rockets and Minty Maniacs are the bar for names. Team Plasma is a breath of fresh air. Say it. The name Rojo rolls. Good pun off the tongue so well. Yeah, I agree.
Team Plasma. It does.
3, performance in the year they were in. In the 4 qualifying events, they got last in curling, which hardly matters in the current Marble League. I love curling. They got first in Snow Rally, which does matter quite a bit, and that's fair. In the Ice Dash, they got blocked and finished 3rd in the group. Finally, in the half-pipe, they failed hard, but in my opinion, the pieces are still there. Well, a great argument you made for that. They got a total of 12 points, which is an average of 6th, but they got a gold medal in the hardest group to quali out of. Even if you disagree, Glaciers did worse than them and still had an amazing run this year. Listen, I like the team. They don't. There's nothing unique enough about them where I'm like, whoa, not like how the Gliding Glaciers, which just they always stuck out to me. But the Steven Plaza, if they came back, I wouldn't be like, oh my god, I don't want to see them. I would rather them than the Purple Rockets, so I give you that. But I'm pulling for you, maybe one day. But that will kind of do it for the Alex segment. Again, for the sake of those who actually want to hear about Honeydome and the future versions of Honeydome in the context of what I'm saying in future episodes, Alex's email segment, now this is becoming more of a thing, will probably be more of a after we've done everything else type of thing. But
yes.
That was something we kind of learned as we went the last few weeks. But well, I'm going to drink this soda while you kick off Honeydome and what you want to talk about.
All right. Honeydome was a very interesting race in that I think we can all agree, no one expected Royal to absolutely destroy the competition the way they did. Like, man, that was ridiculous. 6 seconds. I don't know if that's better than one of Red Eye's finishes in season 2, but it's definitely up there at the very least. And then like Bumble, like oh my, Greg has to bring up the host curse again, but Bumble destroy that hopefully once and for all, because I'm just sick and tired of hearing about the stupid host curse.
I feel like it's a cyclical commentary at this point. Every time Greg's like, "Oh my God, this marble looks like he's gonna break the host curse." There he did. Well, it's happened so many times that like, how can you even say there is a host curse when it seems like every time you mention this, it's broken?
There was never a host curse to begin with. Fool.
I don't understand it.
But and then the last thing that I think the greatest. I don't know if this is I think this is the first time actually it's ever been said. Like. At the very end of the race, Greg Woods said Galak 5th. That he said it. And like in so many things had like Starry got like 5th place. The team moved up to 5th place overall. I think Starry also moved up to 5th place in the individual standings. Like there were so many 5s back to back to back.
It really is just. You almost can't even believe it. I mean, like
it's ridiculous,
right?
I love it. This is why I love marble sports. It's like these random, stupid things that shouldn't happen end up happening by random chance consistently, and it actually creates this narrative of like these marbles being good. It's like Helios from MSPN's Marble Mayhem. Like it's completely simulated, which means it's the most random marble racing you can get, and yet Helios consistently was the best racing marble in the competitions somehow.
Listen, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but somehow it always works itself out. But that's why I'm into marble sports, because there's enough pull to it that like it's like, man, like Savage Speeders keep doing good, Red Eye keeps doing good. Like what? How does that make any sense? But it really is cool when that works out like that. Let's talk about the 3 teams really quick here, who we really pointed out last time. Now, remember last time we saw 3 teams that really separated themselves from the pack, and we're going to get into the course itself and the rating for that, but I want to mention these 3, which were, of course, Rangers, Crazy Cat's Eyes, and Balls of Chaos. Now, those teams stood out, and those teams are way ahead compared to, I mean, the 4th place team also being Cobalts, and with the win they had, that could shake things up a little bit. We have a lot of time left in this season, but those are the 3 teams that emerged last week. And funnily enough, besides Balls of Chaos, who really struggled to get out of the mid pack there, and that was and it all kind of lines up with what we said last week, though, because even at that, we talked about last week that Balls of Chaos was able to have such a good race because of the fact they got out of that mid-pack, they got out to a lead early and had a lot of open space to work with, because they're strong racers, but they struggle when they get stuck in the mid-pack. And what happened this time? Tumult did not get out of the mid-pack early on. They were 8th, 9th early on, and they dropped around, and they couldn't ever dig themselves out because they didn't have enough space. Cobalts did get that space, and wow, really ran with it. But,
seriously.
We see the pattern there of how we discussed of the Balls of Chaos last week. Now, couple other fun things to mention is Rangers and Crazy Cat's Eyes, again keeping consistent with form of how we described them last week. Rangers, of course, incredibly patient and persistent, and Yellow Eye just incredibly, I mean, more than the patient side. I would say Yellow Eye was more patient, while Clementon was more persistent in this race. It goes team to team. I know we talked more about Red Eye and of course, the who raced last week for the Rangers? Orangin? Yeah. I mean, I know we talked about them in the context of these traits, but the traits kind of are team encapsulating. So, I mean, again, similar stuff. I mean, we see that crazy persistence from the Rangers, but a calm and collected persistence that gains positions one by one, and you'll notice, and this is oddly true, but it really is true, that the Rangers really do have a tendency to kind of stay to the middle of the track. I mean, every time I see them on the screen, they're always kind of holding the middle, finding lines, and when marbles kind of zig and zag around, the Rangers are always kind of there to pass if there's that open space. But on the other side of the coin, the Crazy Cat's Eyes race a little different, and they're not very middle of the track oriented, while they're more like extremely precise and calculated on how they take their turns. They very, very often always hit every turn with maximum effectiveness. Meaning, like, they're going to hit the curves and the banks and the lanes, the sides of the lanes in the best places to hit them, so the most speed is gained. And they kind of settle into this groove where their focus just becomes, let me make sure I run out of the turns really quickly. Like, look, red, yellow eye here. Runs really good in that embankment, really good on that next turn. Just kind of finds the groove and curves with it and lets it kind of carry him around. It just keeps that consistency up the whole race. And then kind of usually just has to be patient. Just has to be patient until other marbles mess up to get around, which is mostly what happens. But we'll kind of find lines, in between times doing that. And most of Yellow Eye's passes will happen either with calculated, patient moves on the curves or with very, the more of the risk is taken on the straights for Yellow Eye. So, I mean, the racing styles are fun to see, but both of those strategies coming from veteran racers like these really pay off with making up ground and holding ground when other marbles are really coming out fast and with gusto. Whatever was in Bumble's breakfast that morning, or whatever, was very very dynamic, I guess is the word for it. But those are the racing styles I kind of see from these two marbles, and just kind of keep an eye on that when you're watching the races because you'll see it. Like look at Clementon there as he tries to stay in the middle, even coming down that straight, where most marbles will kind of linger to the side. And then look at Yellow Eye continuing to run every curve smoothly. That's a smooth curve right there, goes inside, and it really is nice to see some of the styles kind of emerge. So that's kind of what I saw.
Yeah, very smooth racing. Other big things to talk about are the comebacks. Like Momo, for instance, fell at 18th at one point, but then they finished all the way up in the mid pack. What was it again? Was it I believe it was 8th that they managed to finish in?
For
Team Momo.
Yeah, and didn't Momo set a new record or something at the qualifiers? Or the first one to undercut the previous year's record? Something like that.
They finished 9th. I don't remember anything about them undercutting a record.
There was a record from the previous year, and I believe Momo, was Momo the first one to be under? He was either the first one to be under 29 or the first one to be under that previous year's lap record, which was 29.4. No, the first one to be under 30
I do remember him saying something about that. Yeah, I gotta go back and hear that again. But
by the way, I want to point this out while we're here because I know I just said earlier on that I usually don't like to talk that much about qualifiers, but again, this is just brief. Man, Bumble came off that turn rough there, but it was amazing to me.
The track got shorter. EG says.
Wait, the track was actually shorter this year?
Yeah, so that would explain why Momo beat the record, I guess.
The track is actually shorter this year? How much shorter?
Apparently.
Then why would Greg bother mentioning the previous year's record?
Because I was about
to point out that there was 10 marbles undercut the best record from last year's lap time in the qualifiers for this track. And then 10 marbles undercut that record. 10 marbles were 29.4 and below.
Well, now we know why.
Yeah,
I was
about to try to figure out why that even made sense at all. But apparently, if the track did get a little bit shorter, I guess that would explain it logically.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess you'd like to say training in the off season, or whatever.
They're getting so much better each year. The teams are improving.
I mean, that's what you'd like to see. But if the track did get shorter, and I trust to do, then I guess that is what it is. So no thought there. But let's talk about the course itself. Let's see what we got here. Like we said, we always do. We rate out of 10. So, Wof, I mean, what are you thinking looking at this course, and where are you going with all of it?
The turns are probably some of the smoothest we have seen this season. This racing is very smooth. Not a whole lot of sudden stops. It flows very, very well. the fact that the Cobalts like it's cool that Royal was the one winning it. Like that's very unique. But the fact that one marble was leading the entire time basically kind of took away a lot of the enjoyment from some of it. But the aesthetic, though, I will say, I love the giant little, like, quote-unquote beehive, that little lantern thing, and all the marbles and the honeycombs around. Like, aesthetically... Oh, is someone knocking at my door? I'll be back.
Well, I guess I'll pick up here. I do want to mention a couple things. Number one, the hive didn't improve at all. It's the same length and the same kind of boring feature. But that's okay. But another thing that was fun is that bee dance part that Greg liked to mention, that part was like the 2 figure 8s. I really enjoyed that because that's a show of true creativity from JMR's perspective, because I always talk about I really want the track to really, really represent the location it's speaking of and the theming and everything. And one of the best ways to do it is to really have the track uniquely be formed around the idea of what the theming is. So for bees, you kind of, when you think of like bees and honeycombs in their hives, you think of a lot of patterns and a lot of movement, but movement within a kind of a particular type of repeating pattern, because honeycombs have that idea, like all these bees working together doing similar things, all the hexagons kind of making a pattern. So it kind of gives off that vibe. It gives off that aura to it. And so when you see this kind of very this repetitive section that's dancing back and forth when it makes a giant figure 8 shape, it really does bring out the vibe of like a honeycomb kind of bee kind of place. You almost can imagine bees going up and down doing what they're doing, and that runs it really well. And then when all the marbles are all on the track there, it looks like a bunch of busy bees, not all spread out in the line and whatever. So that was really cool. I thought that was really good creative track design. Theming is pretty good. All the hexagons and then 1 marble per hexagon I think is wonderful there in the middle. I think that giant lantern beehive is nice. I think the hive itself part could be a lot longer or take up a couple different more spaces of the track. I still don't understand why that's not possible, like why that wouldn't. It would just be nice, but I mean, that's okay. But some of the theming, even though it wasn't necessarily the biggest amount of theming we've seen, the theming was smart and chosen very well and looked really good. And really brought out that beehive feel to the course. Like I really felt like this is, like if I went to Buzzpig or whatever the town is, that this is a track that I would feel like the bumblebees themselves would make. So that was really fun to see. I think Wof's really talking to someone there in the background. But additionally, as far as rating goes for the track itself was pretty cool. You had the whole dance in there, and then you had that one tough bank at the end, which kind of gives a sharp corner, which does also give like a bee feeling somehow. It just really, this course really gave the feeling of like a beehive. So I would really give this one a 9 out of 10. The racing was fun. Royal got off to a lead, and the JMR did a good job with their camera work to keep the race exciting, even though Royal was out in front, because they just focused on Bumble and everything going on behind, which was still a very crowded race, even though sorry, the Cobalts kind of started to run away. So all around good. And again, so Wof's here and hears me. I'm gonna go with a 9 out of 10 on this.
Wow, I missed a lot.
I get a big fan of a lot of the different small things that this course represented. So Wof, why don't you?
Okay, shoot. So I love how smooth the racing is, and I do like the aesthetic of it. But I think it was kind of killed by like Royal just being the main lead the entire time. But I did enjoy some of the fighting between some of the marbles. The recoveries were very chaotic. I love Bumble once again proving that the host curse doesn't exist. I love the Starry getting 5th a whole lot. So I would, but but it still doesn't feel like it's a big standout race to me. So maybe 7 or 8, 7.5.
That's fair. I'm gonna go to the track lesson section. So apparently, season 2 was 13.83 meters. Season 3 was 13.26. So a little bit shorter does account for that half to full second general average increase in speed. So yeah, things kind of rolled out kind of as you expected. By the way, Royal in the main race had a fastest lap of 25 seconds. I'm just seeing here. 25 seconds. That's ridiculous. And
I'm just seeing Discord. EG was right. The battle for second and third was pretty good. Like that, I won't deny that. That was a very good fight there.
Yeah. So, but overall, it was a fun course and honestly a fun race. And I think it really, the track itself really represented what a beehive would be like if they made a course. Sure. And that's what.
Oh, the bee dance or the waggle, as it. No, yeah. Like, I love the names.
It was wonderful. I don't know. I just thought it was creative in a lot of ways. But again, it would get a 10 points if they actually extended that hive or put it in a different part. So it was a lot of it. But whatever. Let's look at standings here. I guess this is the last thing.
Dude, I just had a great idea. Imagine that little hive lantern if they cut a hole for a tunnel and they raced through it.
I don't know why they don't do that stuff, because you realize
that would have
been
so cool.
It's like 10 minutes to make that happen, right? You realize that it takes 10 minutes of their time to add that. I mean, like, just cut a hole. Cut a hole with safety scissors. I mean, come on. I don't understand, but they just choose not to. But yeah, that would be really fun. But in any event, let's take a look at standings here. I'm trying to get current standings for teams here. So Crazy Cat's-Eyes, O'Rangers, and Cobalts, and Balls of Chaos not in your top 3 anymore because it was such a big change.
Yeah.
From the Cobalts killing it to the Balls of Chaos not so much, that you kind of have more of a top 4. Again, Team Galactic 5th and everything below is going to kind of sit there for a while, I think. But it's been it's just really cool to me when I look at the standings, because you just see so many teams that don't really belong in the top 10 if you were watching, let's say, Marbula 1 Season 1, that are there. Primary, Thunderbolts, not really Thunderbolts, more primary, Bumblebees, Mini Maniacs. Momo does not belong at 6 normally, like Season 1, let's be real. Cobalt.
But Season 2 Momo was a lot better.
Yeah, but my point, I'm just going off my point from last week that we're getting really getting into that, maybe that new era where teams are starting to shift around. Look at the Savage Speeders, the Midnight Wisps, and the Green Ducks and the Hazers just all struggling in the bottom. And just, it is really interesting all the flip.
It is. It's crazy seeing the Savage Speeders that low. Like after especially after Marbula. Like I wonder like why this? What is so different about this year for them? Are they just tired? Are they hitting that point where they might need to consider retiring so they can end on a high note?
Wait, I'm getting a possibly important phone call, so just keep talking for a second while I see.
All right, you got it. I'll keep talking about the Savage Speeders here. I do wonder, like at some point, like the Savage Speeders are one of the most one of the most popular teams, probably only second in terms of fan base to Rangers, and they're so synonymous with the channel and all that stuff. But I do wonder if at some point they should retire soon-ish. That way they can end on a high note instead of fizzling out and dying with a whimper. Like, I don't know, you kind of reflect again more like real life sports, like how just over time, because MFA mentioned this maybe over a year ago or something, how over time marbles acquire micro damage, just from bouncing against each other over time. Some of these things like fidget spinner collision, for instance, definitely took out some chips of some of them, I'm sure. It's affected these marbles over time, and eventually they're probably gonna get so worn out that they're not gonna be able to perform as good as they did in the past, and it might be time for them to actually step down. And that's not just for the Savage Speeders, maybe something that applies to Rangers too, which is a weird thing to think about. Imagine that a JMR world without the Savage Speeders, or the Rangers, or Mellow Yellow, and maybe even someday Team Momo. Momo's been on its uptrend recently, so I don't think that's happening to them anytime soon, but just imagine that. Imagine that world. I can't believe Brennan's missing this, because I think he would have so much fun things to say, but maybe it's a good thing he's not here, because we're running really long, and if he was here, we would just be going on and on and on. So this might be a good discussion, actually, for next week's episode. I think this would be a fun discussion point, especially since we're gonna wait for M1 to come back, and who knows how long that's gonna take. But yeah, I would love to hear, I guess, your guys' thoughts. Email in about that if you would like, just see what your thoughts on are, not just the Savage Speeders, but also Marble retirement in general. like not like but like different from retirements that we've seen, like where teams were just doing poorly, but more like a team that has a high pedigree, and like if it's just time for them to basically like they like aged out of the system almost. I think that'd be a very interesting thing to explore. This is a very long phone call, Brendan. I'm quite surprised. Another pretty good result for Wisps crash down on the belt. Yeah, that's true. The Wisps have been very, very strange. Like, I hate to say it, but was that like I need to look at the stats again, but like the Wisps have not been doing quite well recently. And like, it's weird. It's very strange. And I see that Brendan has returned.
Good thing that I had the weird urge to mid-podcast answer that particular phone call because it was relatively important. So I got something sorted out.
Well, I had some. Well, you don't have to worry about cutting it because I had some very interesting discussion points. Like you need to listen back because we'll discuss this in the next week's episode. I think it'd be very interesting to talk about.
Give me the quick summary so I understand.
Oh. So I was talking about like how maybe someday the Savage Speeders might need to be retired, like noticeably in a high note, because like the more they race, the quote unquote older they get or out of role play, the more damage they get. So the less well the performance. So it might be a good idea for them and even other teams to one day retire to end their legacy on a high note.
Ooh, that's a whole episode right there. But...
Yeah, that is a whole episode. That's why we can't talk about it now.
I'm going to give you my initial opinion on it. I'm going to give you initial, unfiltered, raw, organic, whatever you want to call it, just kind of unthought through opinion on this. And and then for a different episode when it's slow, we can dive into this more. But here's what I really think about this. So I see these teams in Marble Sports like I see teams in other sports leagues where the team itself never retires. Like, for example, you want to talk about the Eagles in the football or something like that, or the Mets in baseball. There's never no Mets or Eagles. Or if you're like a around the world person, like, I don't know, soccer, like Brazil soccer, there's never no Brazil soccer, but the players go in and out all the time. And I think that better for the lore would be something where the players at some point retire and then they have something where they continue their little legacy, or they become coaches, or they become kind of veterans who can get their own space watching, or in the coaches box, or like, okay, somehow are still integrated, but they're sitting back because they're done and they've already put their stuff up, leaving room for new Savage Speeders, leaving room for new O'Rangers, leaving room for new Gladding Glaciers. I don't know why they picked that team. That team's not old yet. Leaving room for new Mellow Yellows. And imagine how useful that would be for a team like the Limers, where the old is not very good at all.
You're not wrong, but that's a cool idea. I didn't think about that. Yeah, like this is a whole. We gotta stop here. We're gonna be going for a while if we keep going. We gotta stop.
Yeah, so we're gonna end on that. But again, the Honeydome was good. The Honeydome just continued to move forward. That top four, the top three that we had before, we see Yellow Eye, and we see the Crazy Cat's Eyes, and we see the O'Rangers continuing to do what we saw last week. Again, Balls of Chaos up and down, and we talked about that, but they're still to keep an eye on. We had a good course. We addressed term. We addressed emails a lot in this episode. Hope you enjoyed. Wof, take us out, and we'll roll with y'all next time.
All right. Roll on, Marble Sports fans.